Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bryan's Basement. Today we're going to be looking at Crisis Core for the PS5. This just came out on Tuesday, so I've had a little bit of time to play with it. I wanted to give you my first impressions, so let's get right into it, not waste any time. My first impressions of the game are very positive. I really like the game a lot. I think that the music is great. I think the reskin is great. The reskin being the new graphics, the new textures and everything. I think it just really looks phenomenal, like the summons and all of the cutscenes, and even like playing through the game, it just looks really crisp and really good. So I'm really impressed with what they've done, and it feels like it came out really fast. So bravo, Square Enix, bravo. I'm very happy with what you've done with this. So some other things that I've noticed about the game, it's definitely a port of a PSP game. So it plays like a PSP game. It has a sort of reminiscent of a PSP controller scheme. Like, you're not attacking with like the triggers, for example. You're using the square button, and it uses like both just R1s, I believe, R1 and L1. I don't think it uses L2 and R2. But you have some modern features in there, like you can use the two joysticks to be able to position the camera like you would expect in a modern game. So there is that. But just be forewarned that it is really a PSP game at its core. So the game, I'm about 8 hours into it, and I found this too when I was playing it on the PSP, most of your time in this game is spent doing like these little side missions that basically allow your character to level up, get different items. They're fairly monotonous, fairly similar. There's a lot of them, and I've probably spent 80 to 90% of my time doing those side missions rather than actually playing through the chapters in the story. I'm only on the third chapter, and I'm about 8 or 9 hours in. So I think I don't really mind that. I don't mind grinding in games. I don't really mind the somewhat monotonous aspects of RPGs, but I think that if you're coming from the Final Fantasy VII remake and you're expecting that, a similar experience to that, you might need to lower or reconfigure your expectations to not be dissatisfied with this game, because it's not the remake. I mean, it's the predecessor to the remake in a lot of the ways, especially with the battle system and stuff, but it's not the remake. So it does have an active battle system, but the battle system and the leveling all rely on this slot machine in the corner of your screen called the DFW, and basically it spins, and if it hits a certain number combination, like 777 will give you a level up. Other number combinations do different things, like all of one number will always do something. 2 of one number, I think, upgrades your materia. Other stuff like that. And then for the slot machine to spin, you need these things called soldier points that you earn during battle. So in that regard, that's kind of similar to experience, but it's not guaranteeing you experience towards another level. It's actually just adding up so your slot machine thing can spin. But it is cool. There are like these cutscenes that show, and it gives you more like background story when you're doing these kind of monotonous missions. So it does add, and I like the battle system. I think it's unique and it's fun, but it's definitely different. It's really different. It's not like the remake, and it's not like the original. It's its own thing. So just keep that in mind when you're going in. And another thing to keep in mind is that I keep saying this, I'm going to say it one more time, this is a PSP game. This was a remade PSP game. Originally released for PSP in 2007, now it's released 15 years later in 2022. But it's still at its core a PSP game. So you just want to keep that in mind going in, because there are some of just little tropes of PSP games, like you're instancing into every level. The levels are kind of smaller. there might be some more repetitive action in there, just because this was developed for a system that had hardware limitations. I mean, it was a portable that had less computing power, probably less RAM, all that good stuff. So when you're going in and playing it here, while they don't have any of those constraints now, I think that for us as fans to expect Square to go in and change source code and update the battle system and kind of configure the new Final Fantasy battle system in there, it's a little unreasonable, because it's just it would really be like them almost developing a new game at that point, because the battle system is just such it's really ingrained into this game. So for them to change anything like that, it wouldn't have made sense, and I wonder if it was thrown around, but I just think that ultimately what they did is it's fine, and I'm totally cool with it. But I just want everybody to go in who's buying this to know that it's a remake of a PSP game, because you'll notice that it doesn't say anything about being a remake on the back. So I mean, it says Reunion, but it just says all legends have a beginning, and says some stuff about Soldier and Zack, and just a little blurb about the story. So just know this is a PSP game, and it plays a lot like a 15-year-old PSP game, because that's what it is. So I personally am really enjoying it. I'm having a great time playing it, but I just sometimes it makes me a little bit nervous with how new fans are going to react to a game like this, because it's not really a new game. So we'll see how it does. I hope that there are more projects like this where they take, older games and kind of breathe some new life into them with a new coat of paint, so to speak, new graphics and stuff. So I really like what they're doing there, and I really am enjoying this game. But I just think that it's showing its age a little bit. So when I initially played this, and I have a unique perspective because I just played this like 2 years ago. I beat Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I enjoyed it so much that it reminded me of Crisis Core and some of the events, because they kind of reference them in that game. So it's really important that you play Crisis Core if you're really into the story of Final Fantasy VII Remake. So I played it again, and I was just blown away at the connections that I never really made, because I hadn't actually ever beaten it when it came out in 2007. I only played it a little bit. But I'm really excited to go through it again, re-experience that, and just, see those things once again that, I mean, as I'm playing it, I'm starting to remember everything. But it's nice to be able to re-experience this on a newer console, just updated experience. It's great. So if you're a fan of the PSP version, I would highly recommend checking this out, and keep an eye out. I'm planning to do a review with screen cap and everything. Currently I don't have a 4K capture card, so I want to get that first so I can actually capture the beauty and what they've done with this game. So keep an eye out for that. Everyone, I hope you're having a safe holiday, staying warm, and we'll see you next time in Bryan's Basement. Thanks again for checking this out.